Welcome to episode number 143 of the Canadian Prepper Podcast. We're recording on January the 2nd, 2022. My name is Eric, I'm the host of the show, based in Southern Ontario. I'm a hunter, target shooter, ham radio operator, and computer geek. As a first responder, I witnessed an over-reliance on emergency services during major events, started a small preparedness company to help people get better prepared for at least 72 hours, if not longer.
I'm Alan. I'm a safety trainer, first responder, security expert, and overall safety nerd.
I'm Jeff. I'm based in Central Ontario. I'm a target shooter, ham radio operator, and general overall handyman.
I'm Alex, Eastern Ontario, a former college professor who gave up that life for carpentry and homesteading.
And if you want to help support the show, keep the Canadian Prepper Podcast on the air, you can buy some swag. We've got the Canadian Prepper Podcast t-shirt and the tactical Velcro patch available at prepperpodcast.ca. All the proceeds help keep lights on and the backup generator fueled.
And if you're enjoying the show, please take a few minutes to like us on Facebook and submit a review on iTunes. Also, we want your feedback, good, bad, or if you want to know when Ian may show up again, or if there's just a topic you want us to cover, you can email us at feedback@prepperpodcast.ca.
I think we're going to have to say CGN 3 times backwards. So we've got some grazing content for you in this episode. We're going to start off with some preparedness news. We're going to update you on what we've done lately for our preps, and then we're going to get into the main topic of animal husbandry.
It's a very specific term that only Ian could have come up with, and then
it is.
He didn't bother showing up.
Yeah, he just ditched us as per usual. We're getting used to it. You got a news article, Alan?
Oh, I got lots of things in the news. Ian put a bunch of stuff in here, but because he can't be bothered, I'm not going to bother reading it. In Montreal, 1 arrested and 57 ticketed for protesting Quebec's COVID curfews. So they're cracking down on that and changing the rules. But I also put an article in from CTV summarizing all the new laws that are coming into effect across the country this year. So there are some federal legislation, some provincial and territorial legislation. Single-use plastics is one of them, including checkout bags, cutlery, and straws. So that will be coming into effect some point this year, allegedly. If you trust the government to do what they say they're going to. Who knows? Some provincial things like milk container refunds, paid sick leave for a few places. Alberta gets a new area code. Anyways, I thought it was kind of interesting just to kind of see what's going on across the country. Some things are where kind of some government's priorities are. I thought one of the really interesting ones was that Newfoundland and Labrador is putting a 20-cent per liter tax on drinks with added sugars. So they're making they're putting a pop tax, like a tax on pop, which will either generate a lot of revenue for the province or make a lot of people a lot healthier. So I don't generally support tax. I don't generally support specifically sin tax. I think that's generally not a great way to do things. But if it encourages people to not, if that's the catalyst for people to not drink pop, then I think that's a good thing.
Now the question is, can they take that tax off the beer then? That'd be good.
Right. A government's going to reduce tax on something?
Just change it. Just change it from the beer to the pop. Problem solved, right?
Yeah, that's not how things work. We all know that.
I was wishful thinking. It's a new year. I was hoping they'd turn over a new leaf. I guess not.
So I've got a really good point here that masks are a single-use item, and they're made of plastic.
This is true.
So that's there you go. That's interesting. Yeah. That's a great point for you.
That is a good point. I've got an article here. Yes, it's from the CBC. Don't throw all the hate at me, but it's titled "Bay St. George Among Communities Tapped for Disaster Preparedness Research Project." So it looks like there's going to be some research into how different people react to disaster type of scenarios. They're doing some studies using that community as well as Richmond, BC, Thompson, Manitoba, and Ottawa. So kind of just a neat idea, I think, looking at different segments of the population of Canada and how they are either prepared for or how they react to various disaster scenarios. So kind of a neat little study.
Well, if they want to use Ottawa, the first thing they need to do is kick all the politicians out of there. That'll make us better prepared.
This is true. Yeah.
But it will certainly be interesting to see how not only how these areas respond, but what they do with the data. That's probably the most important part, right? Is what do we do to encourage people to be prepared, or encourage governments to be better equipped to respond to emergencies, so that we get back to what we consider normal faster. Although, who's to say anymore? As we're 2 years into 2 weeks to flatten the curve.
This is true. And I should also mention it's the Red Cross and the University of Waterloo that are holding those focus groups. So
excellent. So the biggest pyramid scheme in the world and a publicly funded agency. Perfect.
Yeah. Why not? Perfect storm. But there you go. It's in the news. Now you know.
Now you know. So I've got a couple. The first one's coming from the Financial Post. It's more European at this point, but we all know that things kind of cascade around the world at some point. And just basically talking about energy suppliers, more specifically natural gas suppliers, collapsing. Basically, the article basically says record high power and gas prices have crippled energy suppliers worldwide, leaving some running at a loss and causing many to just collapse altogether. Energy providers are closing down in the UK, Netherlands, Germany, Czech Republic, etc., reducing choice for customers and, scaringly, triggering government intervention, which is the last thing we need. But obviously, it mostly affects those companies that sold energy at fixed prices, where they are now taking a huge loss. And I understand some of them are trying to come back to their customers and saying, look, yeah, we locked you in at this price, but the price has gone way up and we're going to start losing money and we want you to pay more. And so last count, and this was mid-December, was that more than 40 suppliers have collapsed in the UK. One of the suppliers was a fairly large one, and they said they would be halting operations in the UK. So, and funny enough, for 6 weeks later, they said they were left with no choice but to shutter their activities, and they closed down. So just something to be aware of if you're locked into a fuel price or whatever. It's going to come our way eventually. So. And the second article I have, I touched on it, I believe, 2 podcasts ago, possibly, but the time is coming up now in terms of supply chain issues and whatever. Again, vaccine mandates for truckers crossing the border is about to kick in. The dates are basically January 22nd for Canadian truckers to go into the States. You have to be double vaxxed. Of course, there's that 14-day window. So they've only got a few days left to get their shot. And for the other way, for U.S. truckers to cross the Canadian border, the date is January 15th. So if you don't have your second shot now, you're foobarred. They're, again, putting estimates anywhere between 15% of the drivers and up to 35%. So again, we'll have to see how that plays into the whole supply chain issue coming up in the next couple months.
Yeah, that's going to add a bit of a snafu into things, I think.
Yeah.
All right. Shall we move into what we've done lately for preps? We'll start with you, Jeff.
Nothing. And I'll be honest about it. That's nothing. With the holiday season and just trying to get stuff done for the Snowmobile Club and all that, I would like to say that I was fairly prepared for the winter season with all my firewood and my generator's been I've done stuff with that, so I really didn't have much to do in the last couple of weeks.
Nothing wrong with that. For myself, same thing. It has been a crazy couple of weeks. My absence, obviously, for the last, I think, 2 episodes, mainly work related. Then with Christmas and New Year's and all that other fun kind of stuff going on, it has been just a whirlwind of a couple of weeks. I did manage to carve out a little bit of time to get my portable HF set up, all dialed in and operating. I know, strange for me doing comms work for my preps, but hey, it's the way it is. So took a couple of tries to get things up and rolling. Got a little bit of help from the local ham club here, and now I've got a full portable HF station, and I've been testing it out on Parks on the Air, which is basically a nerdy thing where you go to a provincial park or a designated park of some sort, set your station up, and start calling out for other stations, and they all call you. And I got it all dialed in and made 66 contacts today with it all around North America. So it was kind of neat. I'll take my propeller hat off now.
Yeah, good call. I mean, three more and it would have been a real story.
Yeah, I know, but hey, it is what it is. I tried.
I also didn't do a whole ton of anything this last couple of weeks. I did, however, make some progress in the wiring of my garage. I have two more runs to pull across the ceiling, and I'll be ready to get my electrical inspected and have start insulating and drywalling. So it's nice. It's been a slow project, but we're getting there.
Yeah, all building and renovations are always slow.
Absolutely, they always take longer than we thought, and I started a new job in the last couple of weeks, so that's taken a lot of my attention, as well as just not wanting to do it. So there we go.
All right. Fair enough. Well, with that, how about we get into the main topic, and we'll get Alex talking here, because he's been hanging out, listening to us gabber on for a bit. And how about we start out with you just telling us a little bit about yourself, Alex?
All right. Well, I'm a homesteader. I guess that would be my classification, and a prepper. I prep more along the lines of permaculture, long-term self-sustainability, as well as some of the more tinfoil hat-related topics. But yeah, that's what I do. We're a big family, 5 kids, 3 of them with autism. So we a few years ago, we're like, the city was just unsustainable for us. It was too expensive. We were just always trying to stay afloat, paycheck to paycheck. So we said, to hell with it, sold everything, bought 3 acres out in the middle of nowhere, and started a small farm.
Oh, very nice. Yeah, from the city to 3 acres is quite the change.
Our timing was immaculate. We moved December 27th, 2019.
Look at that.
People thought we were crazy. Yeah. They're like, you're never going to make it. Why would you move all the way out there? Boom, March, I believe it was Friday, March the 13th or whatever. And I'm like, who's laughing now?
Yeah, look where we are. Yep.
Yep.
Awesome. So how exactly did you get into prepping and or homesteading?
Well, homesteading was more of we tried to do the urban homestead, growing as much produce as we could in a small, suburban backyard, because we're 7 people. It's a lot of food. Food's expensive, more so nowadays than it was then. But prepping, I think it would have been fall 2018. We had a few tornadoes come through the Eastern Ontario region and knocked power out for us. We were without power for about 4 days. And I had to get creative. Obviously, you can't have a generator in suburbia. And
You can, but the people will complain.
100%. No, so we had to get creative and with cooking our food. Luckily, I'm a charcoal barbecue kind of guy, so I was out there like cooking frozen pizzas on a charcoal barbecue, and whatever I could get going out there. And I was just like, you know what, we can't have this happen again. Luckily, in suburbia, you're on gas. So you're going to have heat at the very least, Yep. And but I was just like, this isn't going to happen again. And we started getting a little more serious with being prepared, at least in the short term.
Nice.
So yeah, a confluence of things brought us here.
Yeah. Yeah, old mishmash. It's a pretty standard story for most of us that get into this kind of realm. It's a mishmash of everything that kind of draws you in, and then down the rabbit hole you go. And then all of a sudden you're on 3 acres.
Yeah, no, it's paid dividends. A few weeks ago, we had that massive windstorm, and knocked power out for us out here, and it was real wet, so our sub pump was going nonstop. And I just plugged the generator in outside and I have one of them generator panels, so I can just shut off from the grid and run half my house off a generator.
Nice.
So I was laughing.
Yep. And you said in your intro you're into woodworking as well. What do you build? What do you make?
I'm a house framer. I'm carpentry on the larger scale. I frame houses.
Oh, right on.
And I do a lot of bushcraft construction out here.
Very cool.
Awesome. All right. So which did you get into first? Was it livestock or was it gardening?
Well, I really didn't speak too much about gardening with Ian as we prepped for this episode. Yep. Hi, Ian. How you doing? Glad to see you.
He's not here. He decided to teach you.
Yeah. But mostly I was prepared for livestock. We can talk about some gardening if you want.
Oh, no, sure. Yeah. Whatever it is you're comfortable talking about, let's get into it. You want to do livestock? Well, we can, yeah.
Sure. Let's start with livestock.
Ian really wanted to hear about the goats.
Oh, yes, he did say he's like, we've already.
And what they like to listen to at night. Is it smooth jazz or is it more like classic rock? How do you set the mood for them?
Well, they have howling dogs. That's the only mood music they're getting at night. So yeah, I guess I'll tell you. I have goats, chickens, ducks, rabbits, and guardian dogs. So we've kind of settled on those for now. And obviously, I do my meat chickens and my meat ducks and meat turkeys in cycles. But long-term animals, chickens, ducks, rabbits, goats, and dogs. And we just kind of build a. You guys familiar with system stacking? I'm sure.
That's one.
Explain it to us.
Yeah.
So system stacking, everything has to have more than one purpose. I'm sure you guys have a lot of those items lying around. So when we go into something with an animal, it can't just be for, well, we're getting an animal to have the animal, and this is the one purpose that we want to have it for, because if that purpose fails, then you're just feeding an animal. Especially when you're getting into goats, you're feeding it a lot of hay, and the price of hay has gone up lately, twofold in the last couple of years, because everyone started buying livestock animals. So you have to, so with our goats, for instance, we bought 2 wethers, and those are boys without wetting tackle anymore. So they're pretty much useless, but they were cheap, and we wanted to see, can we handle goats? Do we like goats? And is it worth keeping them alive? So, let's use them as lawnmowers and fertilizer. So we just let them loose all over our back acre, one of our back acres, and they just ate through the bush and cleaned it all up for us, fertilized it, brought that back from it's called regenerative forestry, so to speak. So we're like, all right, we love goats. Let's get a buck and start from there. So we got a buck, and we're like, we keep this guy alive. Is it worth it? And then we got our female. So now we have a breeding pair and the 2 wethers, and it's kind of like our own little herd of goats. And the doe gives us milk after, she will be giving us milk after she gives birth. And we're in that cycle right now where we've got her and our buck hanging out in the barn together to make some baby goats. Because, that's pretty much where the money is at. If we're talking money, it's in selling kids. Because as you know, selling anything that isn't taxed or government inspected from a farm is highly illegal. So we can't sell them. We can't sell the meat and milk unless we jump through a million loopholes. So that's why we have our goats: milk, meat, and as well they cut our grass. I don't have to run my lawnmower a lot of the time, and that's been a big savings for us.
That is
and in the long term. Oh, 100%. We just let them go, and the kids love them. We have mini goats because we have kids, because having a 100-pound animal with horns running around with your children, it's, you're getting brave at that point.
Yep.
Yeah.
But it makes some great YouTube content.
It does, and goats are the devil.
Yeah.
Goats are the devil. The first 2, the greatest advice for goats that I got was, if you want a fence to hold a goat, it better hold water.
Oh.
Okay.
Because goats are escape artists. They're not for the. I wouldn't recommend someone just starting homesteading and then starting out with goats. Like they're pretty simple. They eat anything and they need fresh water, but you're getting into keeping them contained, and they can get out of virtually anywhere. It's no joke. 100%. They're climbers. They live on mountains. We have there are African pygmy goats that live in trees.
Oh,
so, yeah, goats. You've seen mountain goats climbing up a sheer rock face that you wouldn't attempt without a harness. So goats will get out of virtually anywhere. So they're a threefold for us: meat, milk, and We also have 2 of our goats are what's called Pygora. So they're an Angora goat that was mixed with a pygmy. So if we get them sheared early enough in the year, their wool is actually worth quite a pretty penny to people who make their own textiles.
So when you're talking about system stacking, you've got both the renewable resources of like what those goats provide, both for yourself and you can get rid of the wool, as well as eventually they become food.
Yeah, 100%. I wouldn't eat my buck because he's when you talk about gamey meat, an older buck that's bred a few times, or you've smelled that goat, that musky goat smell. Well, that'll get it's not pleasant to eat.
I believe
so. If you're gonna be doing meat
goats,
a
lot more bacon than it's worthwhile.
100%. Like if you're hungry, by all means, But as I've spoken to a few of the farmers in my area where I go to, when I need help with dealing with situations, they tell me get them done young because once they start to stink, it taints the meat up a little bit.
Okay.
Good to know.
But yeah, it's renewable. So we get every year when I empty out my barn, my neighbor just brings his tractor over and I fill his bucket up with it and he hands me a stack of gash and walks off with the manure, the straw manure, and spreads it on his field. He takes everything I have from me that I don't use: chicken, duck, goat, rabbit, whatever. So it's not piling up on me, and I actually turn manure into a profit.
Interesting.
Yeah, with the exception of rabbit, all manures have to be composted down, right? Because they're, as you'd say, like radioactive is the term I like to use. If you threw fresh chicken manure on a garden, it would burn your plants.
Absolutely.
Quite severely. So yeah, and so first off, we got chickens. So we got into our chickens. I won't spend too much time on chickens because I know you guys have you've dealt with that a lot. We were like, you know what? First livestock, let's get into chickens and let's get ourselves a dozen, and that's where we'll stay. Yep. And then chicken math happened. And now I have 50 chickens outside that I'm feeding through the winter. Yeah. And I'm of the mind we should downsize our flock come winter, but my kids have named them.
Oh.
So, yes. Yeah. I'm not for naming your livestock animals, but I've been overruled.
Fair enough. It happens.
So are these are egg chickens? These are meat birds? These are both?
Oh no! So I only have I have my egg chickens year round. I do a variety. I like just barnyard mix. I'm not of the mind that you should buy unless you're breeding chickens to sell like show chickens, like good bloodlines. I just buy barnyard mix eggs and hatch them out myself. I feel like I get a better egg and just a bird that's more what would be a better quality bird. It's not susceptible to, it's a mixed bird. When you mix the genetics up, you never know what you're going to get. And oftentimes I've had a lot better luck with those than hatching out purebred eggs.
It's a little bit hardier.
So, a little bit hardier. I like, and it's more fun. There's some weird looking chickens, let me tell you. And I do the meat birds. I do those 3 times a year and runs of 50. Because my family, we have it budgeted out for 2 chickens a week for the course of 52 weeks. So I have to raise at least 104 birds every year just for us. Oh, okay. And then I'll raise another 50 or 60 that I'll have processed professionally that I can then sell. So in the end, I'm pretty much cost neutral on raising my own meat.
Oh,
so. Yeah, no, I found out the hard way the first year that when I had them all professionally processed and then kept them for myself, I paid paid a lot more. You're paying like $5.50, $6 a bird on top of what it costs per feed, and then and then you have to pay the tax on top of that. And so I process my own birds for my family. So the 104 we need, we process them here at home over the course of the year, and then the other ones I send to the processor to offset the cost on that. And of course, chicken manure is great for vegetable gardens after you've composted it down. So we have when we empty, we only clean our chicken coop 3-4 times a year, and just have a big old pile of that composting down. And then next year we throw it in, till it into the garden, and away we go.
Huh.
Yeah. Plus, I haven't paid for an egg in 2 years.
Nice.
And farm eggs are always better than store eggs, no matter what.
100%. No, it was. I got a lot of people into free range poultry eggs, because I free range them. They just run around my property. There's chickens everywhere. They're just everywhere. And so I had people coming out through the pandemic to buy the fresh eggs from me. They're like, oh, we feel safer than being in a grocery store anyway, coming out here. And like, I'm out there. I'm 45 minutes outside of Ottawa. So they come in out from the city to buy the eggs, buy the meat that I had processed. They're like, we're willing to pay more, if it's a higher quality. And I love the look on someone's face when they tell me like, oh my God, it really was different.
Yep.
Yeah. And until you've experienced both, you don't know, right?
100%. And I was a little weirded out eating my first chicken egg. Like the first, I was looking at it, I'm like, is it going to be different? Is it going to be safe? And psychologically, you have to get over that grocery store mentality.
Absolutely.
And then from chickens, it went to, we got a couple of ducks. My wife loves the ducks. I'm not really going to say much as to the value of a duck on the homestead. They are good pest control if you have orchards. If you're dealing with snail and slug, they can't drown. But we mostly keep, like a duck egg makes a mean fried egg sandwich. Don't get me wrong. It's a little weird scrambled, but mostly we keep our ducks because my wife loves them. And if my wife's happy, I'm alive. But they do, they are fun, and they do lay a nice egg. I'll give them that. But as far as, meat ducks, or you have to raise a duck for a little bit longer than a meat chicken. Like a meat chicken, 8 weeks, and it's in your freezer.
Okay.
So meat ducks longer than that, because you have to get them up to size to make it worth your time and effort to raise the animal, right? So ducks are, in my opinion, pretty useless unless you have an orchard and you need some pest control or you're farming ducks specifically. But we just do that for fun, and they're loud and obnoxious, and my wife likes to go out and talk to them and feed them. We tried geese. We tried having a pair of geese for a while, and that did not work out. Did not work out. Don't get geese. Not a fan.
Don't get geese. All right, good.
Don't get geese. If you want to talk about loud and obnoxious, geese. Even in the country, geese will piss off your neighbors.
All right. So you got a question in the live chat about breeding. So do you selectively breed for traits, or is it catch as catch can, or do you rotate your stock through?
100%. I rotate my roosters through. We don't keep roosters for very long because, if we have an aggressive, so we hatch out all our own birds, so we really won't know what we're going to get until, especially with barnyard mixes, it's hard to see those traits and specific breeds that'll tell you hen or pullet or cockerel right off the bat early on. Mm-hmm. So we'll rotate our roosters through. We'll keep our ladies, and we let them live out their lives as spent hens, because they'll die off on their own, or they'll wander off, or they're just fun pets. But we definitely rotate our roosters through, and anytime we have an aggressive rooster, it's to the stew pot. I don't keep those, and I don't keep a rooster longer than about 9-10 months, just because they are. I like to compare, and please don't read into this, but I like to compare roosters to frat boys, American frat boys. They literally jump on anything all the time, and you got to keep that. I'm of the mind you got to keep that gene pool fresh. You shouldn't have dads jumping on, jumping on family members, as it were. But it's good to rotate your roosters through, and if you can keep your ladies for as long as you want. If you're emotionally attached to them, keep them as spent hens and let them live out their lives. But I like to mix it in.
They're a love the one you're with kind of animal.
Yeah, pretty much. It's a pretty savage world out there in that chicken run. It's no holds barred. Right now they're pretty laid back because it's too cold. They're not doing much other than eating and trying to stay warm.
Okay. And I guess that's a question. So what, obviously if you said you're near Ottawa, you're in a pretty cold climate there. How do you keep your livestock live through that?
How do I keep them live? It's a lot. The biggest risk in the winter, obviously everyone thinks it's cold. No, it's wind. It's wind, and for chickens at least, it's keeping them out of the wind and keeping them out of condensation, and keeping them with fresh water. Fresh water is the biggest pain in the ass in the winter. If you have livestock, you have spent your time out there busting ice out of the goat bowls in the barn, or the dog bowls. You're just trying to keep them with fresh water is an uphill battle all winter. That's the biggest pain in the ass. But as far as keeping them warm with the chickens, I thought early on you had to insulate your coops, and I found out big mistake, because with insulation, if cold air gets in there and it's warm and then it creates condensation, that's where you get the frostbite on their combs, wattles, and their feet. So condensation is the enemy of chickens during the winter, not necessarily the cold temperatures. So, and as far as goats, just keep them out of the wind and feed them. Literally, I just throw out a bale of hay for them when they run out and keep their water fresh, and they're happy.
So if you put up a windbreak, will they go for it naturally, or do you have to herd them into a safer area?
Initially, you kind of have to, they're food motivated, so the easiest way to do it is to just put food there, and they'll wander on over, and they'll be like, "Oh, look at that, magical." I
feel that so deeply.
Yeah, no, they're so food motivated. It's really easy to get a goat to go where you want it to go if you have a bucket of grain. They know that bucket of grain, and if they don't, it doesn't take them very long to figure it out. So yeah, I just use food, and during the winter though, I keep them mostly locked up in the barn. There's unless it's a really nice day out, I leave them in the barn. We got a nice sized barn, and open up a couple of windows to let some airflow in, and they're happy in the straw. As long as I keep it clean and dry, I much prefer to keep them in the barn over the winter. But it's fine to let them out. They're hardy animals. They grow quite the wool over the fall to prep for winter. So they're hardy. They can get out there as long as you give them somewhere that they can get out of the wind, like a 3-sided shelter, and a goat's fine.
Okay.
I have mini goats, so we keep them locked in the barn. Obviously, we keep predators out of the way, because there are the odd black bear out my way. We got coyotes, foxes, which is why I have guardian dogs. So it's you gotta find the right mix of keeping them alive, especially in the winter.
So you have not only the weather to deal with, but also the other things that are trying to survive, and
it's
need protection.
Yeah, no, the first year we went into this, so like I said, we moved here in the winter, and I thought I was prepared because I'd done research and that I'd prepared myself with written material, and spent a lot of time on YouTube falling down that hole with other homesteaders and preppers and things like that. But it's really an experience-based game here. Like you figure out, you lose an animal, you figure out how you lost that animal, and you gotta fix the situation. And if you don't fix it, obviously you're going to run into problems. And that's been a lot of homesteaders, upstart homesteaders over the last couple of years have found that out the hard way. That it's work. The winter is work.
And not name your livestock. So speaking of work, are you able to leave the farm, or are you just kind of stuck there, or is that the goal? Is to just be stuck there?
The goal is eventually to be stuck here. Okay. But no, my wife's a stay-at-home mom. Like I said, one of our 3 of my kids are autistic. One of them has global developmental delay and some physical disabilities as well. So someone's always here. That's one of the drawbacks. That is one of the drawbacks of having a homestead or a farm, is someone's always got to be here with the animals. Sure, you can leave for the day, but you got to be back before dark, and you got to make sure that you got food and water out there, all those things like that. But someone's always got to be here. Okay. Because you never know what's going to happen. If you invest a lot of time and money into these animals, and one of them gets hurt, you got to be able to react to that, get them to the vet, or do some home care if that's what's needed.
Yeah, fair enough.
Yeah, no, it's the winter is tough. You think it? I look forward to it because I don't have to water the garden, but I got to water the animals, and that's more of a pain in the ass.
Fewer flies and ticks, right?
Yeah.
Oh, 100%. Yeah, no, the ticks actually weren't bad this year. I only pulled off 2 off one of my dogs, and that was it. None on the goats. I didn't see any, So it was pretty nice. But yeah, the flies are bad. And if you have animals, you have manure, and that means you have flies. It doesn't matter. You can keep it. You could try and keep it spick and span. You're going to have flies. That's the end of that discussion. There's no way to really be rid of them altogether.
That's true. We've got another question in the live chat here from Darius, just asking, do you do a lot of your own veterinary care?
Early on, no, because I wasn't ready. I thought I was ready, and we'd call the vet if it was a minor thing. But now we have our own. You have a first aid kit in your house. We have an animal first aid kit ready to roll, and we have to decide when you start treating an animal, you have to decide early on, is it worth treating, or is this, a situation where you have to put the animal down? And so you have to, it's a little bit of touch. Yeah. So like cuts, scrapes, things like that, we can handle. Like we remove, like I'll remove ticks from my dogs. Well, if chickens pluck each other up or they get a gash wound or something like that, we'll heal that up. We deal with bumblefoot. We'll deal with, any number of things we'll deal with ourselves. But if it's at the point where you're not sure what's going on or the animal's acting very oddly, you take them to the vet. Mm-hmm. But as much, it's expensive. So as much as you can learn on the smaller side of things to do yourself, the better your bank account's going to be. That's for sure. And the more experience you get.
Yeah, fair enough.
So to answer that, as much veterinary we can do, we do. That's within our knowledge parameters.
Gotcha. But if the situation calls for it, off to the vet you go.
Yeah, or off to the chopping block, either or.
The chopping block. Yep.
That was the hardest lesson of getting animals. The first animal you have to put down, doesn't matter if it's a chicken or a goat or whatever. The first animal you put down, you don't forget that, and you have to be mentally prepared for that, because it's rough. And if you find someone who enjoys putting down animals, ask some questions.
Yeah, you probably don't want them in your mutual assistance group.
Yeah.
No, 100% not.
So your barn, you said,
yep.
Keep them locked up. Is it heated?
No, that would mean running an extension cord or getting a permit and having Hydro One come out and run a line, and just not interested there. No, so what we did is it's raised up off the ground on pillars. So I just do a wraparound plywood underneath to keep the wind from running underneath the barn, and then we do deep straw bedding. And those goats are nice and toasty warm in there, out of the wind. And there's enough deep bedding that'll start to before you get to cleaning it, deep bedding. So how that works is it'll start to decompose, and you turn it, and then add fresh bedding. Especially with chickens, you add fresh bedding, and as something compost, it releases heat, right?
Right. Yep.
So you use deep bedding to kind of keep the goats warm themselves. But it's more a matter of getting the right combo, letting some fresh air breeze through there, so that the smell won't bother them too much. Okay. Because during the winter, you clean the barn.
So there's no need for carbon monoxide detectors then.
There it is.
I want to call it 3730. Yeah, no. I have learned more about carbon monoxide detectors from this podcast joke than I have in real life.
For the record, that was not my question. That was Kyle, and he's prompting his own stats now. I think
Kyle prompted that.
Kyle prompted that.
Oh, there it is. There it is.
Almost 4 minutes ago. So
yeah, look at that. And we can't even ask where that counts, because Kyle does all the counting, so he's going to say yes.
That's right.
It's one half dozen of the other.
All right, that's interesting. Well, it's probably also a significant fire hazard if it's deep bedding too, so you wouldn't want anything.
Yeah, no, and like I've learned that you can cause static fires from green hay that you've stored. Like that was a learning experience when the farmer told me that. So yeah, we've had to get creative. You got to make sure that when you're looking at fire hazards, like I used to keep my straw and hay in my garage, and one of the local farmers. Yeah, one of the local farmers rolled by and saw that, and they're like, "You can't do that. That's a right quick way to set your house on fire." So we went out and got a Gatineau garage, and that became our hay and straw storage short term. But yeah, no, we thought, like for instance, our rabbits last year, we brought them inside the garage, and I built some pens in there because I thought they needed the warmth. You couldn't have a rabbit outside, and turns out they kind of like the cold. As long as you give them a house that they can walk into and get out of the wind and keep them out of the rain, they like being outside. Mm-hmm. I was shocked by that. Rabbit care in the winter is fairly easy as long as you keep them with clean water. Well, fresh water, because it'll freeze right quick.
Right.
But yeah, no, people ask me all the time when they come out and they're like interested in getting into homesteading, so to speak, where they should start. And I always tell them chicken and rabbits.
Chicken and rabbits. Start. All right. And
rabbits.
Would you start with egg chickens or meat chickens or?
Oh, egg chickens, 100%.
Egg chickens.
Yeah, if they're like egg chickens are where I would start to get a feel, because if you're not comfortable, if you find it's too much work to feed egg chickens once a day and keep them with fresh water, Obviously during the winter more work, but during the spring and summer and fall, chickens are pretty self-caring. You just make sure they have fresh water and feed, and you let them do their thing. But so I tell people egg chickens and rabbits, because rabbits, as far as bang for buck, is if you're spending your own money to, you're buying all your feed from the feed store, and you're getting that hutch or whatever. As far as weight ratio, rabbits is bang for buck the least expensive, I would say, in my experience.
Okay. And
plus rabbits
they propagate pretty quickly too, right? So it doesn't take a lot of rabbits to get a lot of rabbits.
No. That expression that we all know so very well is very true, very, very true. So we started out with a pair of breeders. I went to a local rabbit breeder, and I bought unrelated buck and an unrelated doe. That's the unrelated part when you're starting out, very important.
Okay.
And so we raised them up, and we wanted them to be of a good size before. So I have New Zealand, California cross rabbits, and that's pretty much your standard meat rabbit. They get to a good size. They're not gigantic, but like the meat to bone structure ratio is really good. Like we got about 8-9 pounds cleaned off each one of our rabbits that we did at 5 months old, which was a nice haul. So we have 2 breeding pairs now. So we kept one doe out of our first litter of rabbits, though we liked her color because we keep the fur and tan the hides.
Okay.
And so we liked her. She was a white rabbit with some gray shadowing on her face. And then we went out and we bought another unrelated buck from somebody else. So realistically, like on average, our litters are on average about 10 bunnies, and then a couple, you'll lose a runt or 2 early on. So on average, we get about 8 viable rabbits out of every batch that we breed that will go to term for either we sell it as a pet or as a breeder to somebody else, or we take it right to meat. And it doesn't cost a whole lot. Rabbits will eat literally anything. You don't want to buy feed. If I ran out of feed and I didn't want to run to the feed store, I just go cut down a few branches of cedar, take some leaves off the tree, go cut some grass, hit the vegetable garden, get some cucumber and some chard, and you can just feed them naturally because, you have to think about what would it be eating if you didn't have it in a cage.
Huh.
And it'd be eating grass.
Ground, right? Yeah.
Yeah, take it right back to Peter Rabbit and Farmer whatever his name's garden. They love them vegetables. So during the spring, summer, and fall, real easy to feed a rabbit. You don't have to spend a dime.
How are
if
they
you don't want
carrots?
to. They'll enjoy the odd carrot. Their favorite though would be, at least in my experience, my rabbits like strawberries a lot.
Interesting.
Strawberries.
Huh.
So we'll dehydrate berries over the course of the year, and we'll use that as rabbit feed, especially when when our does are pregnant. We like to feed them a lot of good, healthy, as much don't get me wrong, a nice rabbit feed from the feed store, perfectly healthy for your rabbit, and it's everything they need. But when she's pregnant or she's just given birth, we like to up the feed with dried berries, or we'll get a fresh banana out. We'll buy some lettuce from the grocery store if we need to. If it's this time of year, you can't get your hands on fresh greens. And obviously, you still got cedar clippings everywhere this time of year too. Mm-hmm. We'll literally feed them anything, and they'll eat it. So rabbits bang for buck, and they're very easy to keep alive.
Okay.
Very easy to keep alive. Yeah, rabbits. If you're in it's hitting the fan situation, and you have to pick one animal, I would pick rabbits.
Okay.
Because like you said, they propagate so quickly, and they're easy to feed. Like I said, if the feed store no longer exists, you can feed a rabbit very easily. Whereas a chicken, you have to get a little more creative with it.
Okay.
Like without good source of feed, raising chickens is pretty hard. You can feed them produce. The chickens will eat anything. If you fall, it's a sickening to say, but if you fall dead in your chicken coop, they'll eat you.
Yeah. Well,
yeah.
That's true. That's also true of most animals, right? They eat what's available and what's easy.
Yeah. No. So chickens, like I said, you got to get creative with chickens because they need to get the right amount of protein, calcium, crude proteins, things like that. Because if you don't have enough calcium in your chicken's diet, the eggs are going to be flimsy and soft. Jelly eggs, as we call them, or soft-shelled eggs where you just pick them up, set them down, and they crack. It's pretty useless. You know, and like the health of a good healthy chicken egg is a nice hard egg.
Okay.
So yeah, if you have to pick one, it's rabbits.
Okay.
Good to know.
That's good. That's a great place to start then.
Yep.
Kyle in the live chat there on YouTube is asking if there are any ideas for keeping the chicken water from freezing. So you're feeding your livestock in the winter.
Well, you can get those heated waters. You know, you plug it into an extension cord, and then just keep the power running. I'm wary of running power in my chicken coop because there is so much straw, and it is very dry in there. So I don't run power. Most people, you just change it frequently. You have to go out there. I use those rubber, that very pliable black rubber feed bucket style. I use those for my watering bowls. And one trick that kind of works for me is I'll take 2 liter bottles of like a 2 liter bottle, fill it with water, and then make it saltier than just make it the saltiest water you can possibly think of. Salt water won't freeze, right?
Okay.
And you put that in there, and it kind of keeps the water around the bottle somewhat thawed. So at least if you got to the access to fresh water will be longer, and if you got to go out there and break the ice off, it's a little bit easier than trying to break through a solid block of ice. So yeah, if there's no real way other than a heated waterer, and but that 2 liter bottle of salt water is what I do to try and buy myself a little bit more time instead of having to go out there every hour or two to change it.
Oh, good to know.
I also keep my chicken run right beside my house, so it's a matter of just going outside, dealing with it, and coming back in. Location is important.
For sure.
Especially when you truck in water in the winter.
Absolutely. Darius is asking, is it true that you can't survive on rabbits alone? I was always told it's called rabbit starvation. There's not enough of specific minerals in there, but what's your opinion on that?
I have also heard that it's not nutritious enough, but as far as just calories, as far as just a meat product, I don't know. I don't have the answer to that if it's nutritious enough to live off it long term as the only thing you're eating. I imagine if you only eat one thing all the time, that it wouldn't be good for you anyway. Like if I just ate chicken breakfast, lunch, and dinner, I don't know what would happen. But as the easy answer is don't know, but it is calories, and they grow pretty quick.
All right, if we can spin back to the first aid stuff for a second. Freya's got a question in regards to what would you say is your most frequently used first aid item for your animals that you would not want to go without?
Quick stop powder. So chickens, if a chicken has a wound, you must remove it from your flock immediately, because chickens will smell that blood or go after that blood, and they will peck that chicken until they'll just be vicious little predators on that chicken. So when a cut happens on a chicken, there's a powder you can get. I can't remember the brand name that I use. I'll find that out and I'll message to you. You can put it in the show notes for them. But it's a powder that you sprinkle on, and it stops the bleeding. So if you can stop the bleeding and get the chicken removed and start to get that healing going, then you can put that. You don't have to lose that chicken. You can put it back into your flock, and once it's healed and not bleeding, it's not at risk for poaching, I guess, from other chickens. But yeah, no, that quick stop powder, that's the one. And my tick removal kit for dogs. I would not want to have my tick removal kit.
Awesome.
You can get Sea-Locks Sea-Locks at Quick Lot at Rapid Survival.
Actually,
there you go. Yeah, no,
it's they're not bringing it into Canada anymore. Can't get it.
Oh, that's disappointing.
Sorry.
My wife does most of the first aid shopping there. She does most of the shopping in general. So she does the research and buys the stuff, and I just read the instructions and use it there.
Read the instructions. Who reads instructions?
You got it once in a while.
Fair enough. I guess every once in a while, especially when it comes to the well-being of animals, you should read the instructions.
A friend of mine is actually watching and listening to this right now. He runs my feed store. He's a good buddy of mine. I'd give him a shout out right now. He just sent me.
Absolutely.
It's Cleary Feed and Seed in Spencer, Fosterville, Ontario, but he just sent me, he said Dominion Vet Labs. If anyone's interested, apparently you can get stuff through them.
Okay.
And I know he's listening, and he's like, Dominion Vet Labs. If I don't know something, that's where I go. You ask your local feed store. If they don't know, they know someone who does know, and they can point you. They know everybody. If you're running livestock, get friendly with your local feedstock operator or your feed store operator, and you'll be in a much better position long term.
Good to know. Let's talk a little bit about the dogs that you've got on your homestead. What are we looking at breed wise?
So I have my male is an Italian Maremma sheepdog, and he's about 125, 130 pounds. And my female is a Great Pyrenees, and she's about 90, 95 pounds. And I honestly, the best investment in my homestead I have ever made, without fail. You're always like, I'm always on the message boards for chickens and livestock and that on Facebook, and everyone's like, oh, I've had a predator in my run, or I've lost this predator. How do I keep this predator away? What are the traps? Who do I call? Honestly, get some LGDs, which is a livestock guardian dog. There's a set few breeds that you can use. I like Maremmas and Great Pyrenees, but you can, there's a long list of them. I have not lost an animal to a predator in 2 years. Not a single predator loss. And I run meat chickens, meat turkeys, ducks, chickens, like no fox in the hen house. I've had one fox make a run at my animals, and my male Grover, he ran that fox off, and that was it. That's the only time a predator has ever attempted to attack anything on my homestead. Get yourself some guardian dogs. They're better than any electric fence. In this instance, they're better than a gun. If you're hunting fox or coyote. Like the Italian Maremma sheepdog they were bred in Italy. They're said to be about 2,000. The breed is about 2,000 years old. In Italy, they use them to fight off wolves and bears.
Okay.
So get yourself. Yeah, no, and so another thing is livestock guardian dogs aren't like guard dogs. Distinction, like, so you're thinking German Shepherd, Rottweiler, Doberman Pinscher. You can train that dog to follow commands. You can, and Ian will vouch for this as well. He has a Maremma sheepdog too. They are selective listeners, and you have to let them do their own thing. That's instinctive for them. They're very flock protective. So if you introduce them to your flock so I keep my Maremma with my chickens, and I keep my Great Pyrenees with my goats. And I also had to introduce my dogs to my children and introduce them as part of the flock, because if my daughters were to wander out there and my dogs weren't used to them, they would see them as a threat. So these dogs, you can't train them to follow command. Like, I guess you can, Grover is selective hearing. He knows his name, and he knows when I tell him it's time to go to work and all those things. But if he wants to run off, he's just going to take off.
Gotcha.
He's just going to wander, and they'll mark their ranges. So the best investment in keeping your livestock safe, guardian dogs. And there's you can find them all over YouTube and online information on different breeds, whatever fits your fancy. I swear by the Italian Maremma. He's big, he's he's semi-friendly, and he does a really good job.
Oh, good to know.
No,
are they
permanently
me outside, or?
Oh, 24/7 outside, and I know some people aren't okay with dogs being outside, but if I let them inside, even right now, they'd be panting by my front door within 30 minutes, wanting to go back out, and they're anxious if they can't be doing their jobs. So I don't agree with people. Like, I'm sure it works out in some cases. I can't speak for everything, but I'm not a fan of people having Great Pyrenees, Maremma, dogs like that as like apartment or house or family dogs. So when I breed my dogs, I do it through a vetting process. And if they don't have a farm or an acreage or like a purpose for these dogs, I won't sell them, because they're just not going to be happy, and they're meant for the job,
Yep.
Like,
yeah, there's working dogs and there's family pets, right? And there's
and like you can have a family pet that's a guard dog.
Yep.
Like you can have a Rottweiler that's a family pet, and you can teach him or her to do all sorts of number of things. But like I'm not worried about anyone raiding my property, because my dogs are loose behind fences. Like we have to fence the property. I learned early on, because those dogs will take off. They'll come back. They won't run off on you. They'll come back unless something happens. But I had to fence my property. But if you step inside that fence line, they know their fence line. They know their job. If you step on my property and they're going to let you know they know you're there.
Yep.
Like so when I leave and my wife and kids are at home alone, not too worried about it. Everyone's like, you're not worried about them stealing that out in your driveway. I'm like, they're very committed if they want to steal that. They can try.
Yep, but you're going to meet the dogs. Yep.
You're going to meet the dogs. And if the dogs know you, you're safe. If they don't know you, yeah, you know.
Good luck to you. Yeah.
Yeah, no, 100%. No, they're the best investment in raising livestock. If we're talking, you know, you have to feed them, but you can get creative with making your own dog food. There's a variety of, you can do it with meats and fish and chicken and all kinds of things like that. But if you're going to, it hits the fan and you need home security, like personally, as we were talking before the show, I'm not allowed to have guns for another few years.
Right.
For past indiscretions. Yeah. So as far as home security goes, those dogs, I know when someone's here. I've never been snuck up on out here.
Awesome.
Right. And do you train them? Do they come?
Yeah, you have. You? Yeah. No, you can get trained dogs that are, people are obviously always rehoming livestock because they're bringing in a new genetics, or the dog's not working out or the animal's not working out. So you can get an older dog and reintroduce it into your homestead. I'm all for that if you're willing to spend the time. But like I said, with our special needs kids, we start with puppies. We get them used to them because we specifically got a big breed of dog too. Because if one of my kids is having an episode emotionally through their autism, they need to be able, and they grab that dog. The dog's got to be able to take it without getting upset, right?
Mm-hmm. Right. Yep.
So like if my Eddie, she falls over and grabs a hold of the dog, and she's a heavy girl for her age, and she holds on to that dog. Grover can take the punishment without getting hurt.
Right.
And obviously we want him to know that she's not a threat. None of them are a threat to him.
Yeah,
mind you,
anybody getting hurt. Yeah.
Yeah, no. So there's different schools of thought. Some people get these breeds of dogs. It could be a Maremma, could be an Abruzzi or any of these things, and they'll just put them out with the animals. They'll train them with the animals, and they'll leave them out in pasture and feed them. No real interaction with them, and that's fine that they're doing their jobs. But if you got a family on the farm, I advocate for partially making them a family dog. Get them used to pets and love and walks and things like that, but also make sure they do their jobs.
Yeah. No, nothing wrong with that.
And also,
I totally agree.
And also, if you bring them in the house, they're huge dogs. Like they take up space and they shed quite a bit. So you can bring them in the house if you want, but they're not going to like it. You're not going to like it probably either.
Yep.
Sure enough. And so are you going anywhere from here? Are you going to different animals, bigger animals, more animals?
Actually, yes. We're going to be doing some feeder pigs this coming spring. I'll be getting those in a couple of months and getting those set going. I'm going to be doing what's called a pork share with a few friends of mine. So I'll be raising the animals here, forest raising pork. You can look at, there's a variety of ways you can raise pork, but I'm going to be doing with electric fences in a forested area of my property. And it'll be pretty much self-contained. They'll help root out that forest, break that forest floor up a bit, clean up the trash plants I don't want anymore, and come November, December, we'll have a freezer full of pork, and we'll have paid pennies on the dollar compared to what grocery store prices are this year.
Fantastic.
But yeah, no, I have to get ready for that because infrastructure has to go into place. And the worst mistake you can make as a homesteader with livestock is getting something without the proper infrastructure in place. Because like you buy said pigs, those things get loose. Good luck catching them. We had our doeling when I bought my doe goat. We put her down inside of our fenced area, which our goats are used to, an electric fence that the goats are used to, and they know they touch that fence, they're going to get shocked. They don't like it. But she had never been introduced to electricity before, and I didn't take this into account. So she hit the wire, got spooked, blew through blew right through it, and it took us 36 hours to catch her.
Wow.
Yeah, and the actually catching her was a minor miracle. People honestly didn't think we were going to be able to pull it off because, like I said, we're bush and farm area out here. And she was gone for a day and a half. We tracked her through cow pasture. She stayed within a couple of kilometers of our property, but we needed to get that animal back because, it's a loss of money, and it's kind of cruel because that animal's not going to survive. The coyotes would have made quick work of her.
Right.
And so have that infrastructure in place and do a little bit of reading. YouTube is great. Don't get me wrong. YouTube is fantastic for learning about how to raise these animals, but you got to do some reading too. Whether it's online or you order out some books, you got to do some reading, be prepared for these animals. So, like I said, we tried geese. We weren't really prepared, and it was a nightmare. So we had to move on from that. And that was mostly of my doing, because I just wasn't ready, and I didn't have the pen in place, or and just keeping enough water for them to bathe. It was a nightmare. Have that infrastructure in place, or else you're going to be in for more work than you're ready for.
Yeah, I think that's really good advice. I think a lot of people don't think everything through. They think, I'm just going to grab some chickens, or I'm just going to grab some rabbits. They bring them home, and well, where do I put them? What do I do with them? So I think that's solid advice to get the infrastructure set up, ready to go, and animals second.
Like if it's an emergency situation and you got to make a call, we'll make a call, and you got to live with it. About a month ago, one of my neighbors, one of those homesteaders that wasn't ready for it and just jumped right in, didn't even know his dog was pregnant, and the dog gave birth outside in the cold and rejected the pups because she just wasn't it was the worst case scenario.
Right.
And he calls me up and he's like, can you take these dogs? And I don't know if you've ever you've whelped dogs before, but they need to be fed constantly and stimulated, because they won't go to the bathroom on their own that young, and you got to keep them clean and fed. So we tried to keep 9 puppies going on our own, and it was a no-go. We gave it a shot, but it literally emergency call. We made the call, and it just didn't work out.
Yep.
We surrendered the pups to one of the Brockville Animal Hospital was nice enough to just take them in. They don't normally do that, but I'm like, listen, I'm out of my depth here. We have 1 puppy that just died, 2 that are fading, and we don't have the mother dog. And they're like, yeah, bring them in.
Oh, there you go.
And that was,
you got to make the call, right?
Yeah, you have to be ready to make the tough call, and you have to be. Death is something you have to be ready for out here.
Yep.
And it took a few animal deaths for us to really appreciate that, to get used to that, because it does take a toll on you. Like, as far as meat birds go, you process a meat bird, it is what it is. You don't feel any attachment to that animal. But animals that you feed daily and you take care of, even if you don't name them, you start to build a bond with it, whether it's emotional or whatever. Or some animals I hate, I still feed them. Like, there's a rooster we have I absolutely despise, but he still gets fed. And we have a love-hate relationship.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
So if there was one piece of advice you could put out to the listeners who are thinking about getting into this, what would be your one lesson from the School of Hard Knocks, or the one thing that you would tell someone getting started?
Do it in steps. Don't try and hit the home run. Hit the single, and then move on from there. I'll use my neighbor for he's not really he lives about a kilometer down the road from me. He used to come buy eggs from me. And then he saw what we were doing, and he's like, oh, I can do this. Well, I can do this. And they went ham with, they got into 50, 60 laying chickens. They were getting into hundreds of meat birds. They were getting into geese. And they got into the dogs. And he tried to raise a couple of dairy bulls, and that didn't go well. He got overburdened, and animals started to die. And it just, he wasn't cruel or mistreating them. It's just he wasn't prepared, and it was way too much work. So go slow and get comfortable, because you're gonna, I've been at this now for I guess over 2 years now, and I'm still learning on the fly. I'm still reaching for researching information when I come across something I haven't dealt with before. I'm dealing with a new situation, or I want to try something new. Is start small and step by step. Don't try and be a fully self-sustaining homestead. The term I use, permaculture, like food forest. You don't want to try in that first year going to plant your orchard, get your meat chickens, plant your market garden, get your goats, start felling trees for fire. Do it in steps and be prepared for each steps. Plan ahead, because prepping, you got to plan, and more so with livestock, because if you're not ready, it's going to hit the fan on your homestead or your farm, and you're just going to lose a ton of money, and you're going to have wasted a lot of your time and work. So plan ahead and do it in steps.
Solid advice.
I think so.
And And don't be afraid of failure. It's not going to go well. We previously had a female Maremma, and one day we just went on the back deck and she's dead. And we're like, just like that, we took her to the vet, and they did some investigating, and it turns out she had cancer. We had no idea. So, and it wasn't affecting her. We just went out one morning and she was dead on the back deck. And that was like a huge one. Like that hit us in the gut. And we had to, you really got to, it's going to go wrong. Things are going to go wrong. The fire is going to catch. You're going to have to deal with it. And it's how you react. And that's based on prep and plan, right?
Right. Well, solid advice.
Well, I think that brings us really solidly into our podcast challenge.
I think it does.
How's that for a segue?
That was a great segue. Well done.
So if livestock is part of your plan overall, start preparing for it. Find out what it is that you need to prepare for the animals that you intend to keep. Get as many sources as you can. Get as many resources, as many things, as many opinions. Find out what works in your area. Find out what doesn't work. Get that ready. Let us know what you've done. You can either get us on at feedback at prepperpodcast.ca, or you can find us on the Discord server.
It's true.
Is it Discord? Yeah, it's Discord.
Yeah, it's Discord. Yep.
There we go.
Until Brad invited me to Discord, I had no idea what you guys were talking about all those times. The Discord channel is like, what is this? Like, back alley cult going on Discord. Like,
yeah, pretty much.
Yeah, I do enjoy the Discord. I do enjoy the Discord channel now, though. Very much.
Ballooned very nicely. There's a great little community forming in there, so I quite enjoy checking it and seeing everybody kind of talking and conversing. It's been good to see.
Absolutely.
Right, should we move to upcoming events?
There may or may not be in Calgary a maker fair sponsored by the Calgary Amateur Radio Association. There's a link in the show notes at calgary.makerfair.com. Hopefully that happens. I guess.
Time will tell.
Time will tell. We'll see what happens. I don't know. Hopefully. Yeah. Good luck. I want it to happen for you. Everybody in Calgary, go support it.
All right, and deal of the week: paracord on sale, $8 for 100 feet. So I'll put that in the live chat here.
Paracord's like ammunition; you can never have too much unless you're trying to swim.
That's a great point. All right, anybody with some shout outs? Alex, if you want to shout out your feed store guy again, feel free.
Cleary Feed and Seed, Spencerville, Ontario. Actually, right now, as we were actually talking in the Discord group, right now, food prices going up. Time to get your seed, your vegetable seed, your flower seed, whatever. And a lot of feed stores will be selling their, getting rid of last year's stock. Cleary's was selling 50% off. So I loaded up on stuff that I wouldn't normally buy to test run this year because it was a good price.
Awesome.
And just a big thanks to Alex for coming on. We really appreciate it. This was a great little chat and a lot of information.
I hope it was good. I'm anecdotal, and what I do is not necessarily what everyone does or what works for me doesn't work for everybody else. But I hope if someone gets into livestock, something will ring true. I still remember some of the early lessons I heard and read.
Excellent. Well, and that's. It's again, anecdotal evidence over, compounded over enough people is objective. So, really love hearing that that's what works for you. And if anybody has any more questions, sounds like we can find you in the Discord server.
100%.
And hopefully we'll be able to have you back on at some point and get an update on those pigs.
Absolutely, love.
Sorry, do you know what your username is on the Discord server for everybody?
I should know this, shouldn't I?
Okay.
I think it's SCAN0033.
Okay. Yep.
I'm pretty sure that's what I use. Yeah, but if you shoot me your livestock questions. If I can't answer them, I'll point you in the direction of someone who can or some information that might help you.
Awesome. All right. Well, with that, I will bring episode number 143 of the Canadian Prepper Podcast to an end. You can find the podcast on iTunes, Podbean, Spotify, or, of course, your favorite podcast app. Please help us out. Submit a review. It does help other people find us.
And we do record these shows live on Facebook and YouTube. If you want an early peek at the show, please subscribe to the YouTube channel, Canadian Prepper Podcast, and click the notifications tab. That gives you an alert when we're going live. If you want to get me directly, you can find me at alan@prepperpodcast.ca. That's Alan with one L. Or every once in a while, I jump into the Discord server.
True. Jeff, where can we find you?
You can just find me at feedback@prepperpodcast.ca. Somebody on this panel may know where I live and can get me the information. Again, I know I didn't say much in this chat. I've been kind of absorbing everything that Alex has been throwing out there. It was a lot of great information, and it was great to have you here, and you're welcome back anytime.
Thanks, guys. I really enjoyed it.
All right. And Alex, you mentioned everybody can find you on the Discord server. Is there anywhere else you'd like them to contact you, or is that the best spot?
Oh, that's the best spot. There, I live in what's the Bermuda Triangle of cell phone reception. So
fair enough.
Yeah.
All right. Discord server it is for Alex. You can check out Rapid Survival at rapidsurvival.com and get me there on the live chat. You can also email me at feedback@prepperpodcast.ca. So thanks for joining us this evening. Until next time, be prepared, stay safe,
and keep learning.